What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Blue River Bow Hunting Podcast, episode 130. What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a good week. And for those in the deer stand or getting to hunt before I get to hunt, I'm jealous. But good luck to everybody out in the woods. And this week, our guest is Chris Ashley from West Virginia. What's going on, dude?
Hey, how we doing? Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone.
Yeah, right. First time caller, long time listener.
That's right.
How's it going, man?
Yeah, good. You and I were talking a little bit. I know we'll get into it here, but the biggest hot topic in our area here of West Virginia and bordering Ohio is just the EHD. It's
Yeah,
devastating.
I've seen a lot on social, the past month or so, and it looks pretty wild out there. Let's just go ahead and get into it. I mean, what what part of Ohio, West Virginia, and what are you seeing
Sure.
over there?
Yeah, so for me, primarily, I've got permission properties in Barlow area, which is Washington County. So we're talking southeastern Ohio. And then I've also got personal property and stuff in Bartlett, which is a little bit, let's say, more west, which is in Athens County.
Mm-hmm.
So really, it seems like those two, I'll say, is like the epicenter of it just ballooning out. It's moved over into like Meigs County and some of the others. And if anybody's been following like the DNR map there on their updates, it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then bordering it is like Washington, West Virginia, Parkersburg, Mineral Wells. You get into like Wood County, Work County, same thing, man. It's just decimating the herd. Over in Ohio in our Bartlett piece, I've found at least 7 dead there, and I didn't go looking for more, but I smelled more. Here locally, just here nearby, I've got a permission property in Mineral Wells that's a little over 100 acres, and we found over 12 deer dead on it. I was just telling I just went down over the bank and found another dead one just right before this. But we're seeing anywhere maybe up to 80% kill off. And as we were talking, there's people saying, "Hey, I used to go out this road and see 100 and some deer, and tonight I saw 2." Or like me driving to work last week, for the entire week, I saw 2 deer for a whole week of driving back and forth. So it's huge. It's a big deal. One of those where people are wondering, are we going to change the bag limits? Are they going to cancel seasons? Is it going to just be us self-regulating because now we're worried about just general propagation of the herd and recovery? Like you talked about, you guys got hammered before. You got to have bucks still and does if you're wanting to go ahead and try to, repopulate.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think that the cause of it just being in that area? Like I feel like if it hit a certain point, like where it did in Indiana, like it wasn't just my county or the rivers that run through here. It seemed like it was all of like east central to southeastern Indiana at that time.
I think it's a combination of like the perfect storm. So we had a lot of rain in the spring and early summer. And so, talking with the DNR some and just, trying to research, what we've ran into is that all that rain brought in and put in wet, muddy areas that weren't generally going to see and hold water. That then ran right over into the other worst case of drought.
Yeah.
So the next thing you know, you created all these wet, muddy areas. Then you led that to the water drying up, exposing those wet, muddy areas. Combination of also just the hot, warm temperatures, and it just made up for perfect, I think, breeding grounds and hatch for the midge, combined with obviously carryover and or local herd having also the EHD that they were able to go ahead and start spreading it around. And it's just been perfect for them because now the drought, you're not set up for going ahead and trying to drown or flush them out, and you're sitting here having to wait for a hard frost, which for us, could be November.
Yeah, sometimes it can be later like that. Every once in a while we get an early frost, but it's not very often. Especially, it seems like here in the last 10 years, we don't really get that first frost until almost Halloween.
Right, and I think that's one of the things that I'm understanding too of why also is the midges this year maybe so much more abundant and aggressive. part of it, as I've been reading, is just our general climate change, that they're moving more up. We're no longer having as hard of freezes and hard of winters. Maybe are able to last more through the winter, come out in the spring or summer, and they can come out earlier and be more present and have more time. So my understanding is don't quote me on this. This is one of the earliest I think outbreaks that they've had of just it being so early active. In like June, July, where typically it's not really starting its activity until maybe September. So we've had weeks and months of this already. And others, I was talking to people at work. They're like, "Man, it's not letting up. I'm still just smelling new deer dying one after the other." And like we said, frost is just too far away still.
Yeah. Talk about the EHD deer study that you and a few others
Sean
were a
Butler.
part of. Yes, sir.
Yep. So my friend Sean Butler is with Longspur Tracking and Outfitting. He's a biologist. And so we were talking, he does normally, I'll say, wounded game and recovery. And so they've got the opportunity of having all the kinds of different drones, thermal drones, tracking dogs, mini drones. And I reached out to him and I said, "Look, man, I think there's a huge opportunity here for us. We've got a herd that is just being decimated in Ohio, West Virginia. There's tons of people just like me that are sitting here worried about what's left, but also too not what's dead, but also what's left." And him and Chrissy had been talking about it, I guess, and finally we worked together and pulled the trigger and said, "Yeah, let's get together. Let's go do a study. Let's really try to put some statistics, feet on the ground, not just generally just say, hey, yep, it's 100% kill off." And that's one of the things that's been so frustrating for me is people just sitting here going, "They're all dead. They're all gone." And it's, I'm not trying to be cruel or rude, but come on, people, they're not all dead. They're not all gone.
Yeah.
Yes, it's huge. We've lost a bunch of deer, but that's kind of what Sean and I showed with Chrissy. They came over. Anders, another young man there that's out of Athens, journalist or in college for journalism, he came over and we just started looking with the drone. I had already put a lot of boots on the ground trying to locate them and using the drone to really confirm and show that it really has the technology that a living deer, I want to say, has a body temperature of like 103, 104. And whenever it dies, and not to be gross, but the maggots, start being present from just your normal flies and stuff, they generate even more heat. So I think he said maybe even up to 107. So, but 105, 106, 107. So it really gives you that thermal pop. And so what we were able to do was to go around, with the foliage on. It's really not that great right now with the thermal drone, being all honest. It's no different than early season deer recovery. The drone might not be the strongest right then, and that's when you want to use the dog. So we checked a lot of the fields and stuff, and it was funny. I had told him, I said, "Look, one of the fields me and my boy scanned driving with the side-by-side, I'm like, I smelled them, but I couldn't find them." And immediately his drone went up and boom, we had a hot spot, went over, and you could see my tracks that I was within probably 10 feet of that deer driving through this field. It's like 6 foot tall grass and weeds. Couldn't see it. And we had 3 that immediately we just picked up like that with the thermal drone. And another really neat thing was it's so effective that we even had this like just big pop, and we zoomed in, and here it was I call it a Boone and Crockett groundhog, but I mean, he was just a pig feeding in that field. But anyways, we used that information to going around looking. We waited until evening time to really bring out the thermal drone, use that to try to get a feel for how many living deer were still kind of walking around and feeding out in the fields. And then also just our normal count with where we were on the ones that we found, both with the drones and with me just putting boots on the ground. That it's a big kill that we said between 50 and 80%.
Wow. And like you said, with people being so hard and say, they're all dead. It is hard when when you get in that mindset, because
it's emotional.
Yeah, absolutely. You're always, you got cameras running. You're always, keeping track of what you're seeing, and then it's just gone. And then it is hard to stay positive, but you have to be at a certain point. You have to almost help. Like like you said, with the bag limits, I mean, if you can only shoot 4 does in that county or something like that, maybe you limit yourself to 1, or maybe you don't shoot any. If it's that bad, maybe you just don't hunt that particular property or that county.
I think it's that bad. I mean,
Wow.
literally everyone in this area here, and that's one of the things. There's a fawn that I've been watching here next to our house, and people are going nuts sitting here on my posts, going, "Man, give it water, call the DNR, do all these things," and it's like, folks, look, if it's got EHD, there's no cure. There's no doing anything. Its future is set. It's either going to develop the antibodies and immunity and make its way through it, or it's going to die. And then at the same time, too, if its mother died, it's old enough. It's fine. I've seen it get up a few times here over the few days and disappear for a while and come back and see it running around a little bit. So if it really is fine, it's got food, it's got water, it's okay. Let's calm down. We don't need to
Right.
go panic. And again, it's that emotional response. And I'm right there too. I mean, I save almost all my vacation to take off the entire month of November, most of December. And I'm sitting here going, every one of my bucks that I had as potential targets here locally is gone. They're dead. And one in another farm area that hasn't reached it yet, I'm praying it doesn't. That's the only shot I got. Ohio, I don't think me and the kids are going to be hunting Ohio. There's just my permission ones in Barlow are decimated, and ones there are personal property in Bartlett. Same thing. They're just hammered.
Man, have you seen? Maybe I'm making something up. For some reason, I always remember like of deer that has survived EHD. They got that like curlness in like
in the hooves.
Yeah,
For the feet. Yep. Yeah, there's some signs or symptoms that show that they've went through it, and some of that is splitting of the hooves. I think also the curling can happen as well.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the same thing too. It's just like the rut; it wears them down, and they struggle through it. So that's part of, again, trying to maintain. That's like me. I'm still doing food plots, even though I might not be hunting them, because I want to make sure they've got all the nutrition, minerals, the same thing, that if they do make it through or they don't happen to contract it, that they're able to rebound and be even stronger.
Yeah, for sure. You food plots could be almost, help them out with nutrition going forward. Because am I wrong by saying this? In West Virginia, you can bait and use mineral, correct?
Correct. People are allowed to do that.
I got you.
Same way in Ohio.
Yeah. In Ohio, it's just private land only, right?
Yeah, and I think the same way with in West Virginia, you can't bait or do anything on public land.
I got you. Well, I usually start off with this, but we dove into the EHD thing already. But Chris, introduce yourself a little bit.
No, yeah, I'm sorry. So yeah, I'm Chris Ashley. You know me from Passion for the Wild and Wonderful. So I've got my YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram, and pretty much it's just where I share my passion for the outdoors. Part of that comes from just really me, my whole life being involved in the outdoors. And then I got into doing a little bit of self-filming, and I think it was kind of my wife that pushed it. It was just like, look, you've got a lot of knowledge, a lot of expertise. You're enjoying doing this self-filming. Why don't you share it with others and maybe start doing your own YouTube channel? And she's really big into being into Facebook and doing her thing too as well, with Beauty Society and skincare and stuff, and that's really a big thing for her. So she helped me kind of get started with it, and that's just kind of been expanding. I've started getting involved with other people in the outdoors and hooking up with different kind of connections and sponsors, like we mentioned, Sean Butler there with Long Spur Tracking and Outfitting, and so that's what I do. A lot of really self-filming, but also tips, tricks, different kind of hunting videos on how-tos, and trying to really provide a lot of the basics that I don't think a lot of the videos anymore really put out. A lot of people really anymore are just, I'm going to put out a pile of corn, I'm going to have a deer come in, I'm going to shoot it, film it, and there you go.
Right.
But it's not the background of really hunting. To me, I want to sit there and show a person of, why am I looking at this little hollow? Where am I positioning my tree stand? How am I thinking about wind? How am I thinking about the approach? How to get out of it? When is the best time of the year to hunt it? How to set the stand? Which direction to face it? all those things that to me, a new person trying to get into the outdoors might not get a lot of anymore, because a lot of it's really just, let me get the shot of the buck or the shot of the turkey or whatever animal you're hunting, and let's move on and do another video.
Yeah, I feel like long form YouTube kind of fell off a little bit. Everybody wants it, ever since like the reels and the TikToks and all that stuff. It seems like they want their, I want straight to the action. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like long form still has its place, especially what you were talking about. I seen you had like a DIY water holes and food plots and just all kinds of stuff. And I feel like there's still a place for that. How does that as far as like success go with those videos, like views and stuff like that, compared to just a hunting where you're just shooting a deer or a turkey?
I think it varies. It depends on whether you hit that, I don't know whether you'd say niche or not, but is it the little place where there was a scratch that was needed? I think a big one is like product reviews, because of a lot of people are sitting there going, oh, I've always thought about wanting to buy that hunting blind.
Right.
And let me watch this video to see what's this person think. Is it a good blind, easy takedown, setup, see through? Those I think are generally the best. But at the same time too, you take my Ohio deer that I killed last year that was a 155 and some change. I did that storytelling long form, as you put it, and it had a major response. Now, don't get me wrong, it's because it's not going to be the same response if it was a 4-point.
Right.
But at the same time, that was something that I really enjoy, because there it sits and shows, look, there is so much work that goes into being able to harvest any deer, but a deer of that caliber, whether it's that age class or that size. And it isn't something that you just happen to every day. And that was a deer for me I'd been on for a couple years. So I think it really just depends. For me, it's just, what are some things that I just do every day? Let me film it. Maybe someone has value for it. And if it gets 50 views, okay. If it gets 50,000 views, okay. But it's my life. That's just what I live. And I'm just trying to put some of it on camera. And if it helps someone, great.
What about thumbnails? Do you think thumbnails help videos like that out?
I do. I know there's a science to it. I'm trying to still figure out that science.
Me too.
Yeah. I know there's stuff. I was talking even with the wife last night about it, with her being an influencer and doing a lot of what she does. It's that attraction. I hate to see it on a lot of people, and the words that gets thrown out is clickbait.
Right.
That I sit there and you see that, you get into it, and it's like, well, this isn't what I was signing up for at all. I think it does have a lot to do with it. I'd love to learn more about it. I know, and I see a lot of people are starting to take advantage of AI and use that to help generate thumbnails. But yeah, for me right now, I'm not trying to do anything that I'll say is clickbait. I'm just trying to say, hey, here's what I'm putting out. DIY water holes. I'm getting ready to release where I did an elevated platform hunting blind. I'll be having the one that Sean and I did for this EHD survey. Just that's what it is. It's nothing fancy, and take it if you like it.
Right. I can't remember if it was a podcast or a video that they put out. I couldn't remember, but when right when Hunting Public, when those guys got real big, they did a video just on thumbnails, and they were basically saying like how big it was for your video. Like you said, people scrolling, looking for stuff, and it's like, oh, what is that? It's a giant buck or something. Yeah. You got to catch their attention. And I try to stay away from, seems like everybody's in this particular criteria of like putting the video on there and it's got like a white outline. It's like everybody's using the same thing.
I just did it myself.
Well, I'm not saying anything like that.
Oh, no, I know. But yeah, red arrows, put an arrow on it, have it pointing, and anything to try to grab attention. And again, you might call it clickbait, but it's a strategy. And to me, I see it, the real example is with my kids. And you talk about it being a parent, I don't know about for you, is they've shown me that they have such a low attention span now.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And they just sit there and they just and just they can't sit, whether it's even us sit down and watching a show together. You can't hardly get them to sit.
I know it.
So to me, that's what you're looking for on YouTube, whether you're doing shorts, which is why they're so explosive. Because
Right.
we mentioned about the shot. I want to see it in 10 seconds or under or something, and I'm moving on to the next one. That's why the long form is sometimes a little bit difficult. I'm trying some new techniques on some of these videos that are coming out right now. That I'll say a friend that I recently met gave me some tips on trying. I
Mm-hmm.
actually like how it's turning out. We'll see if it has any impact on views. Of course, it's a new approach for me, so I'll see as I work through it. But I'm sure there's all kinds of little techniques and stuff, whether it's the tags that you're using for
Right. Right.
hashtags and stuff. So it all matters.
I feel like I'm kind of changing everything myself for this year. For the whitetails anyways. We actually yesterday we have a young man that's my neighbor's cousin's kid. He was born with a spine defect. Braces on his legs, never been hunting before. So we're taking him youth weekend. We got him out yesterday shooting the youth model 243 crossbow just to see what he was comfortable with. But I cannot justify making a short video out of that. I have to make this the best story
Sure.
ever for this kid. Like this kid is incredible. Like just just got such a spunk to him, and like we had lunch at my neighbor's mom's house where we were shooting the guns and stuff, and he conned my neighbor into giving him a Reese cup, and he came over and kind of elbowed me and was like, I got him for a Reese cup, and I just started laughing. But like I want to do the best that I can to put this into a story mode.
Right.
I'm almost going to shoot it almost documentary style. I'm going to do some interviews and stuff like that, which is not anything that I have any experience with. I've mostly been a little bit quicker on things. I try to tell the story a little bit with, like when I went to West Virginia last year turkey hunting, we get to hang out with his family and they have a big family dinner and playing guitars in their garage and stuff like that. I try to show some of that, but sometimes I'm not the best at B-roll. So it really shows in some of my videos, especially early on in our YouTube videos. Like they can be a lot shorter. Some of our most popular videos are only like 10 minutes long or something.
Yep.
I can see this particular video with this kid running 20 minutes or something. Like I want to do, hopefully we get some good footage and some good weather when it comes to getting him in this box blind to potentially shoot a deer. But I want to do the best that I can to tell this kid's story and not even make it like a boo-hoo or feel sorry for me type of thing. I wanted to show how incredible this kid is getting out there. Even he has trouble walking and stuff like that, but he is ready to go after it. So I want to do the best that I can to tell his story and put the wildlife in there with it as well.
No, I think that's great. That was one of the things with me of when I did get started is I said, look, I'm going to have all my kids growing up with me in the outdoors. It's kind of like doing your family videos from home. I'm treating this with our
Right.
experiences together in the outdoors as that, and then I'm editing it and releasing it, and it'll be something that's out there for them to have forever. So to me, I think my approach was probably the same as what I think you're alluding to, which is it's like, hey, kids, if this turns out to be a 30-minute video and that deters people from watching it, I don't care. I want to tell the whole story. I want you to be able to have this as a memory of a lifetime. This was almost my own personal professional video that my dad made for me growing up, or
Right.
that Brett made for me with the opportunity I had to go deer hunting or turkey hunting for the first time. That's memories of a lifetime.
Absolutely. And I think, and I know they're probably both going to be listening to this, but with Victor and John, the way they've been putting these videos together, Vic's film getting on the full draw film tour, and I getting to go see that. Those videos are incredible.
Yep.
There is no YouTube worthy on that. They blow YouTube out of the water. Most things on YouTube, anyways. And it just says it inspired me to be that good or try to be that good in telling a story with a hunt. I mean, it's just a whole nother ball game, really.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, we all have people that we look to. I mean, that's for me, right or wrong. I love watching Bill Winke.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill isn't I'll say flashy, do all these kinds of tricks and stuff and fancy thumbnails or whatever. Bill's just like, in my opinion, I view him as just one of those that, again, I'm out here, eat, sleep, breathing this every day. I'm going to bring you with me. I hope that you take something from it. But what I love about it is he's sitting there going, but I'm sharing and doing this with my daughter. And this will be a memory or memories for a lifetime. But the man's just, so knowledgeable and so relatable and down to earth. That's for me. I look at him and I watch his videos. Is one of the examples that I really like watching.
That's cool. What do you use for editing your content?
I'm just using just a straight old iMovie. I'm not using anything professional or crazy. Part of it is again, I just finally went ahead and decided to go ahead and monetize. I'd qualified for quite a while, but I'd just been trying to let my following build up a little bit more. So, I mean, I'm not sitting here going ahead and spending hundreds and hundreds or, more on fancy software. I'm just doing it right now with iMovie, I think it's Canon XA40, my GoPro, and my iPhone, and capturing it. And then also too, my Tacticam in turkey hunting.
Yeah, I don't use anything fancy myself. I probably need to sometimes. Sometimes I have a little bit of an audio issue with the particular software that I use, but some of that can be pretty salty. I was looking because I have a newer like gaming laptop that my brother is a big gamer, and he gave it to me to do these podcasts. And I had been using a different computer to edit on, and I think I'm going to switch to this computer because it runs a lot faster. It's got different chips and all that stuff when it comes to the gaming and stuff. I think it would be beneficial for me to have maybe a Pro Cut or Adobe or whatever to use. But I know some of that can be pretty salty too.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean that's like with me. I sat down one afternoon and I'm like, I've got to learn how to do this. And just started talking and bouncing some stuff off of people. Justin Caldwell with Stubby Outdoors, reached out to him. He was giving me some pointers and tips and stuff. And next thing you know, it's like, wow, I just did my first video.
That's funny that you mentioned Justin. Justin is actually next week's guest.
Oh, okay.
Yep, we've actually did one before. And like I said, I had an older laptop that I was podcasting on, and I don't know if it was his connection with what I had going on, but like the whole thing basically got scrapped, and I felt this big, after having to tell him like, hey man, that whole thing got butchered. I don't know what happened, and that was early on with me doing the show, but with this computer now, and I've been on a run with editing it on here. I reached back out to him and said, hey, let's get you back on and do it. So actually next week's guest is
that's great.
old Stubby Outdoors.
Yep.
It should be a great episode. He seems like he's very knowledgeable, and I love watching his videos as well because he just seems like a down home type of guy that likes shooting big deer.
Yep.
Talk about the like the layout of the land that you're hunting there in West Virginia. I know where I go in West Virginia, it's mostly hills and hollers, hardly any water. What's it like where you're hunting?
Yeah, I mean, I won't say that we're not really in the big mountain area. So yeah, I think a general description would be like you said, hills, hollows, deep ravines. A lot of times I view ours as terraced, so we have benches or flats.
Right.
And so with it, it's not like out west, and nothing against out west hunters, but it's not one of those. It's like I've got a patch of 5 acres or 10 acres of woods, and then all these fields and a strip of woods that connect it that's 20 yards wide, and another big that it's like I just got to sit right here, and they're going to go across. Right. In West Virginia and Ohio, patterning is not the same as like out west. The wind is not the same as out west. We deal with so many thermals. So with us having the hillsides, the hollows, as you talk about, the fingers that are coming off, you get wind swirl bad. And so you sit there and you say, all right, well, today is supposed to be a west wind. You get up to your stand and you're like, it's completely opposite direction. This is a southeast wind. This is horrible. I can't be here. You got to really play the thermals. Hardwoods, is really what I'm primarily in. So I'm in the oaks, especially too early season. I've been showing it here on some of my posts. Everyone generally knows it, but again, that's one of those for beginners and stuff. Where do you want to be early season? You want to be in those white oaks. That is the preferred around our area here. And then, so generally your oaks and stuff are going to be up on tops, the sides of hills and up on the very tops, not so much generally in the bottoms, maybe more of your walnuts, poplar, some of the others. And so it depends on where you're hunting. But that's generally too what we run into is the water. And you mentioned my DIY water hole. So you take, for instance, a lot of our hills, where are you going to put food plots? That's probably going to be primarily up on the very top of the hill.
Yeah.
Well, where's your water? Generally, it's going to be at the bottom of the hill. It's going to be down in those hollows, down in the ravines. So that's one of my big things is when my food plots, and I know there's others that sometimes argue against putting that attraction together. I like to have water right with my food plot. I want it to be, why do I want you to have to go to that bottom of the hill, maybe on someone else's property to get water or get away from my core area? I want it right there in my food plot, all centered, major attraction. And we've killed a lot of good bucks now off of water, both in Ohio and in West Virginia, that it's made all the difference. So that's kind of the area that we're hunting. I do also do a little bit of fields, but over in Ohio, there's more areas that have ag. Our personal is not really on ag. The surrounding neighboring properties will have it, like corn and soybeans.
Mm-hmm.
But again, in that kind of area, what I'm hunting primarily is patches of oaks. And my permission properties there in Barlow and stuff are pass through. They're not holding properties, but that's kind of what it is just, for me, it's try to find where you're able to pattern the deer with the hollows or the ravines. Generally you're looking for where they're going to cross. Where's the most likely? It's so steep on those sides, you got to go up to the head, and that's where they're going to try to cross that shallow area of that ravine, and find those benches as well, just over the break, or use the food plots and the water holes up on top. And for me, I love to do it with both lock-on stands, climbing stands, and hunting blinds. I am not yet a saddle hunter.
I've seen a lot of feedback on the whole saddle thing. I personally do it, but it's not like I'm only saddle hunting.
Okay.
I use it as a tool, especially
you like it.
And I like it.
Okay.
And I use it mostly for a tool when I hunt public land in other states, when I'm running and gunning, even though I have a run and gun light lock-on setup as well. But there's certain places that I like to use it.
Okay.
Here at home, I use it a little bit, but I mostly use lock-ons here. Like I was getting ready to ask you, since you say you hunt mostly like big timber, when you go to Ohio and hunt some of that ag, does it throw you off a little bit?
Well, for me, like I said, the ag is more in the surrounding areas, not where I actually am.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were to say, would it throw me off? Maybe. But I think, again, what I would do is pretty much what I've talked about before. I mean,
Right.
I think one of my strengths is patterning deer, inside corners, outside corners, travel areas, pinches, all the normal things that we would look for. That's what I would be looking for in the ag. Where do I think is going to be a good secluded, maybe low spot in the field where they feel safe, they're not seen from roads. Those are the kinds of things I look for, because in Barlow, I have hunted some of the ag areas, and that's where I've been able to try to get on some deer as well, and the cameras have shown it.
Yeah, I'm so used to hunting the ag here. Sometimes when I go to these other states like Missouri and Ohio and stuff, at first, I struggle a little bit. And I've talked about it on here before. I can still try to look for those things like you were talking about, saddles and stuff like that on onX, but sometimes I still need to get boots on the ground and get in there. And sometimes it can take me a couple days to get accustomed to that big woods, because where I'm at here, there is no such thing as big woods. I mean, it's patch woods, flat ag everywhere. So sometimes I struggle when I go to the big woods.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I think a lot of people, from nothing against, but from out west, would struggle coming out here. And I've seen it on some where they've tried to go ahead, and normally they're with outfitters, and they're like, hey, we're going to go do public land, or we're going to go get on some permission property, and we're going to try it ourselves. And a lot of times they struggle, and it's just completely different. And then maybe it'd be the same for me going out west. That, as you said, it would be a little bit of a struggle for me, maybe as well.
From what I hear coming out of your mouth, it sounds like you wouldn't have much problem figuring it out. Especially like when you said inside, outside corners, even with the ag, some of that stuff can be inside corners, man, can be amazing in these small patch woods on these big fields.
Well, sure. I mean, you look at it and treat it as an animal of looking at where would I go or what I need to do to survive, because that's what they're doing 24/7 is trying to survive.
Right.
And put yourself in their situation. And, and that's, like I said, I've seen it even with wounded deer of, going through fields, and you can see that there's a little swell in that field, and it just keeps them out of line of sight of maybe some houses off in the distance. And that's where they want to travel through, so that just that one little bit of safe, just feeling a little safer.
Yeah, for sure. What about age class of like hit listers? Do you make like a hit list, or is it just like I need a particular age class of buck to take during the season?
Normally for me, especially with West Virginia. So I mean, hey, I'm from West Virginia, born and raised. Growing up, it was that whole, hey, if it's brown, it's down.
Right. Same
You
here,
know,
really.
yeah, it started out with Spike, and then next thing you know, I remember some different times, Dad's like, okay, well, you got one. If you want to shoot another one, you have a good one come by, and we're doing a deer drive, and boom, I drop like a 5-point or whatever. And it's like, well, he looked big, Dad, when he was running, through the scope. To me, it's been progression, and some might want to do it, some don't. I feel like with me, I want to challenge myself, and that's part of the self-filming part of it as well, aspect. So, some people might eventually get to where it's like 8-point or better, or 12 inches inside spread or better, when they start restricting themselves trying to do it. For me, especially in Ohio, that's a big thing that I like. West Virginia, or where we're going, one buck. So to me, you sit there and you go, I better make this count.
Yep.
So in Ohio, I generally am looking for trying to be 4.5 and up. Part of it really is originally was size. I wanted 140s plus. There was one year there that I ended up having a deer that I forget if he was 5.5 or 6.5, and I passed him up. And he was a bruiser. And my friends were like, "You're an idiot. He is a old deer."
Decline
And
after that.
I'm like, "Well, I'm not there yet to where I'm worried about age 100%. I want the score still." Well, I ended up eventually switching to where I went and put my focus on him, and I harvested him late season. Um, to me, that's really my challenge. That's the thing I like when I look around on my walls, is I'm able to sit there and say, that was my target deer, and I harvested him. Target deer, target deer, target deer. And it wasn't generally just randomness of I lucked on that deer. It was literally of I've had you on camera at some point, and that is the deer I'm going after. That's really where I put it. So again, I look at it in West Virginia. My preference is trying to shoot 130 up, which generally is meaning I'm already automatically 3.5 and up.
Right.
But I don't know about you, but in my area here, getting a 3.5-year-old and up is difficult, because most of the deer in West Virginia, well, I don't know whether it's 80%, 90%, they're a year and a half, maybe 2.5-year-old deer. That's what's getting harvested. Most people aren't holding out and trying to do it. It's getting better. Are you familiar with like southern West Virginia, some of our bow only counties?
I am not, but that sounds awesome though.
Well, check into it. It's like when you go to our West Virginia Hunting and Fishing Expo, like Wyoming County is, for example, I think one of them. When you go and you look at that wall of the ones that people bring in that are the big ones generally, not to say that other counties don't, you generally will see that that's bow only county, bow only county, bow only county. And it shows that in West Virginia, given the age, we can grow Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Iowa class bucks in West Virginia. We can do it. We don't have to have the ag. We need the age. And a lot of people don't give it that. They just will not give it the age. If I don't shoot him, someone else is going to shoot him, so I'll just go ahead and shoot him.
What made the DNR make a whole county bow only?
Honest answer on that, I don't know. There was 4 different counties, I think, that we have that are bow only counties, and I don't know what the driver is. They just do not allow gun seasons there, but they grow big bucks.
I wish on everything they would do that in some of these counties here in Indiana, because I mean, like this little triangle around here. There has been some absolute giants killed by me. Some with a gun, some with a bow. But I could only imagine, even if it was only like a 2-year period, maybe 3-year period, your age class, the minimum for your age class would
Jumped.
just, yeah. I mean, it unbelievable what it could do. That's I've talked about it on here a million times. A particular county that I go to in Missouri every year, even on public land, has antler restrictions.
Yep.
4 points on one side, and they can't shoot does during gun season. In this particular, and they can't use cell cam, or they can't use trail cameras, period, on the public land. I don't know what the combination of all those things put together is, but oh my God, do they grow some absolute giants over there where I go. I mean, it's nothing to see. It seems like every time I go over there, I see a 150.
Wow.
I mean,
yeah.
I know.
And that used to be the same with Ohio. People used to sit here before I ever had the opportunities to go over. I always heard, yeah, you might not see a lot of deer over in Ohio, but when you do,
Yeah.
it could be the one. We've changed a lot in West Virginia. I mean, growing up, you could just slaughter the deer. Still the numbers are super high. That's why a lot of people come from out of state to West Virginia, because you can generally slaughter the deer. Now, what they have done in the past year that a lot of people frowned on, I'm on board, is cutting it down to a $2 limit. So it used to be, growing up, I forget how many I could get, and don't hold me to it, but I mean, it was a big number of bucks that you could harvest. And I don't know whether it was almost like one in every season, whether it be bow, gun, muzzle loader, late season, that you could harvest. The other thing I think West Virginia did, in my opinion, that's smart. Used to, in gun season, you'd have 2 weeks in West Virginia, and it was like buck only. So you got a lot of people in West Virginia that are living off of deer. Venison is one of their main things. So on an opening day of gun, a spike walks by. They're sitting there going, I need meat. I want to fill my freezer. They're smoking a spike. Well, one of the things West Virginia finally did was open it up for choice. And I think that's been huge as well. Of now, people are just like, oh, I'll go ahead and shoot a doe now. I'm still out doing the tradition. I'm out at deer camp. I'm celebrating with everyone. I'm out in the tree or in the woods. And if I want to go ahead and shoot a doe, go back to camp and hang out with the friends, and I've got my meat for the freezer and stuff, then so be it. And then putting the restriction. I mean, West Virginia has shown we can grow big bucks, and I would like to see additional changes as well too, that I think would help in our area, but it's never going to happen. So
yeah, it seems like that. It doesn't matter what state you name, somebody over somebody else is going to have a different opinion on how they would approach it if they were in charge of DNR. Like I wish I wish we would shorten our gun season, and I wish they would move it back a little bit. Seems like our opening day of firearms hits like the peak of the rut, and there's a lot of those big mature bucks that go down on opening weekend because they're in the wrong spot at the wrong time, as far as getting picked off from 150 200 yards with a gun, which nothing against gun hunters. It's that's what they like, but I feel like if they shortened it to like maybe a week in a weekend or 2 weekends or something like that, and then pushed it back to like the beginning of December, or like Thanksgiving to the beginning of December or something like that, I feel like it would make that jump of the mature bucks that we actually are getting, that are great mature bucks, and it's going to make that jump even better, and it's going to make it worth coming in for a week if you're an out of stater to gun hunt, because you're going to see big mature bucks.
Right. I'll throw mine out. It's not a well received one.
Let's hear it.
I'd like to see baiting be made illegal.
Yeah, I've never got to do that. It's illegal here in Indiana. We can put mineral out during the summer, spring months, winter months without season.
Yeah.
And I've actually said it wrong on here before. It used to be you had to have it out 30 days prior to
Before.
season,
Yep.
but I'm wrong. Actually, it's actually only 10 days prior to season. Somebody has called me out on it, and I actually had to look it up,
Yeah.
and I was wrong. So I apologize for being wrong and stating facts that I thought were right that aren't. But actually, I've talked to officers here. They're very strict on it. They will dig your soil up and test your soil and stuff like
For the
that. Like it,
mineral.
yeah, and for the mineral, which
Wow.
kudos to them. I've
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be done. We have so much ag here, anyways. I understand if you want to put a little mineral on them in the late winter to
Yep.
help them out, or early
Yeah.
spring to help that antler growth. I understand that. I do get that. But during the season, should be it ain't even going to help you out, anyways, because we have so much ag, anyways.
Right. I'm
Um,
all about at least the supplemental feeding. Like, to me, I'm fine. Here's where I'm at. Okay. We're not allowed to bait for bear, and you're not allowed to bait for turkey in West Virginia.
mm-hmm.
Why are we allowed to bait for deer?
Right.
We've already got it. You're already showing that it is a benefit. That's, I think, one of the reasons why they don't allow it. So to me, when we sit here and talk about getting deer to the upper age class, getting rid of baiting during season, same kind of thing. I have no problem if the day season goes out, or to be safe for some people, probably, X days after season, that, okay, you can start putting corn minerals, other supplement blends, whatever out, and it's got to be out 30 days prior to opener. That's huge. I mean, if you're truly trying to do it for deer management, habitat, and the health of the herd, that's what we need. But I think a large part of it goes back to our comment earlier with, like, the young kids and others, of wanting just that quick, low attention span. I want it easy. I want it fast. My deer comes into my corn pile at 5 o'clock
Right.
every day, so I'm going to get there at 4 o'clock, and he should be on the ground by 5:10. And there's a lot of truth in that happening for a lot of people that I know, year in and year out. So I don't know. I think we've lost a lot of the hunting, and it's more into just that immediate gratification. And I
Mm-hmm.
think you get more back into, and again, people can fry me because they'll sit there and go, "Do you use a compound?" Yes, I do. I
Absolutely.
do not use a recurve. I do not use a longbow. I don't have wooden arrows. I don't spear them. You're right. Um, it's just, for me, I that's my challenge for myself again.
Mhm.
I choose that as the challenge.
Let's talk about your bow a little bit. What kind of setup you got?
I'm still actually using a Z7 Extreme,
Nice, very nice
Matthews
bow.
Z7 Extreme, and
Mm-hmm.
before that it was like the Matthews. What was it? Was it called like MQ1? I think.
I'm trying to think
Um,
before Z7.
it was years before, like several,
Yeah.
but it was one of my favorite bows. And then I started getting into the do-it-yourself elk hunting out west, and I wanted short axle to axle. I wanted to jump up to higher poundage, flatter shooting, and I started shooting the C7 Extreme. And I've harvested antelope, bison, elk, all with this C7 Extreme. And to me, the bow is just phenomenal. Drop away rest, gold tip arrows, generally shooting Rage broadhead expandables.
Mm-hmm.
But when I do big games, sometimes, I'll go ahead and switch over to like a G5 striker, or a fixed solid ferrule broadhead.
Mm-hmm.
Montec.
Yeah, Montag makes a good broadhead. I want to hear about these other animals you just named off elk. Where have you gotten to chase elk at?
So I did elk out in Colorado, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the only place I've ever elk hunted, is Colorado so far. But one first year there, we were like, well, let's go with an outfitter. I'll do a gun, make sure that I got a good chance. It's no different than
Right.
deer hunting. A lot better chance with a gun than a bow.
Right.
So I went out and did a combo hunt. Was able to get a nice bull and a mule deer on
Nice.
that combo. And honestly, after doing it, I went with an outfitter, and the dude passed out asleep on me there. So I grabbed
Oh
his
wow.
calls and started calling and spotted my bull, and stuff. And afterwards, I'm like, I can do this. I don't have to have a guide or an outfitter to do this. So
Mm-hmm.
I end up doing do-it-yourself elk hunt, and again in Colorado. And I was pretty tickled. A guy that went with me, we ended up being, I think, the only two that tagged on the mountain. We got him a bull on like day 2, and then I made a brush blind and was able to shoot a bear on his carcass at like 10 yards out of a ground brush blind that I built.
That's awesome.
And then we ended up staying late. Everybody had already left the mountain, and I went up on the mountain to go ahead. I told him, I said, I'm going to go up and hunt in the morning, try to find my arrow, do a little bit of calling and stuff, and then I'll come down off the mountain and we'll go home and do our 30-hour straight drive. And I got up there and was on the phone with, I did some calling, found my arrow with my bear that I'd shot and passed through him. I finally found it. And I was did some calling sequences, and I was on the phone with my wife, and all of a sudden a bull bugled right out in front of me.
Oh
And I'm
man.
like, I gotta go right now. One just bugled. And I couldn't get in the brush, and my arrow knocked and stuff fast enough. But anyways, he came out. I think he gave me I think it was a 60-yard shot, and I got him. And then antelope, I did that in Wyoming with my bow on a water hole. That was just like a little 30-yard shot.
Mm-hmm.
I've done moose in Canada. I shot a bull moose that's just right at Boone and Crockett
Nice.
with 7 mag there. That was a really cool experience. Bison, I did that in Wyoming with my bow. That was another good one. That one makes a record book with SCI.
Nice.
And let's see, black bear in Canada with my bow.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one in Colorado, that black bear was a color phase. That was a really cool chocolate with a blonde stripe down its back.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that one was cool. Whitetail in West Virginia and Ohio. Let's see, what else have I done? You name it, turkey with my bow, turkey with my gun. I did get my slam this year.
Awesome. Which one did you finish on?
So I ended up going out west and was able to go ahead and get the Merriam.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd already had the Osceola, the Rio, Eastern, and I finished it off in Washington State. I ended up getting 2 in Washington and 1 in was it Idaho?
Yeah.
And so that was awesome.
That's a huge dream of mine. I'm taking the next step in that this year, going to Texas for Rio. I've only ever killed Easterns. It'll probably be a Merriam after that. I got a few states that I probably can go to and get a Merriam, but I think the Osceola is probably going to be the last leg of mine because I'm probably going to have to pay to go someplace to get it done.
Yeah. That's a tough area down there.
Yeah, a lot of people getting scammed on that kind of stuff too. I see all the time on Facebook and stuff like that, and people pretending to be outfitters down in Florida and get your money, and then you never hear from them again.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I've seen a few people get snagged into that scam.
Okay.
What about I usually ask like, what's your bucket list hunt if you had unlimited funds, but I'm gonna narrow it down for a small detail for yours.
Okay.
Bucket list whitetail hunt, state hunt, certain area, anything like that.
I'll be honest with you. Here's where I'm at. I feel like I can hunt world-class deer right where I am here in Ohio. I'm not living in Ohio, but in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
If I was to go somewhere for whitetail, I don't know. It'd be kind of neat to go to Montana and do like the Milk River.
That would be cool. I grew up watching, real
Real
tree
tree
guys.
outdoors.
Absolutely. That was always like if somebody like mentioned out west, yeah, like Milk River, like you knew what you were talking about.
Yeah. My bucket though is caribou.
Caribou. You've checked my bucket list off. I've always wanted to shoot a big bull. Moose up in Canada or somewhere in the brush up there would be an unreal hunt. I mean, just some of the videos that I've seen on it just looks so rugged and would be an adventure all on its own.
It is, and the benefit, it's kind of like bear hunting. Have you ever bear hunted in Canada?
I haven't. I'm probably going to try to check that off the list either next year or the year after.
Well, that's the benefit. Like for me, excuse me, I love fishing.
Mm-hmm.
So you're combining two of my favorite things. So, in the mornings for bear, you might go out and do fishing, whether it be for lake trout. For me, what I love doing in Canada is smallmouth.
Oh
You're
yeah.
sitting
Oh
there
yeah.
seeing the water 30 feet deep structure, and you're able to work baits and just see them come up out and hammer it. But that's the benefit of being in Canada. For the moose and the bear was maybe lunchtime, wanted to go back, chill, rest for a little bit or whatever. Me, I'd go out on the boat and just fish, and that's a great combination you're able to do on either one of those hunts.
That's awesome for sure. Well, buddy, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I'm gonna have to get you back on at some point to talk. I'll probably bring you back on Spring Thunder and we'll talk some turkeys.
Oh, I'd
Uh,
love to.
yeah, exactly, man. But tell everybody where they can find you and the passion for the wild and wonderful, buddy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. So again, like you said, I'm Passion for the Wild and Wonderful, or under Chris Ashley. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. But if you guys would check out my channels, check out the content. Like I said earlier, all about it is really just trying to share my experiences and do really educational content.
That's awesome. Yeah, everybody go check Chris out and go subscribe to the Passion for the Wild and Wonderful. We'll be back here again next week for episode 131 with Justin Caldwell of Stubby Outdoors, also from West Virginia. You guys have a wonderful rest of your week.